is the theme to the show. The show is all about you. Not Jeff, but you and your stories. Because everybody has a story with Jeff Seltzer. Everybody has a story with Jeff Seltzer. Brought to you by JeffSeltzer.com.
Hello and welcome to Everybody Has a Story with Jeff Seltzer. I'm your host, Jeff Seltzer, and this is once again my own personal midlife crisis. Thank you for joining me on this journey, as this is episode 76. Last week, we had our second-year anniversary special, which was hosted by a good buddy, good pal, good friend of mine, Marcus Percal Brandon. He did an amazing job. I've gotten lots of amazing feedback from people about him and about the episode as a whole over the last week. It was a lot of fun to do. I mean, this was only the second time that I was the guest while I had somebody else host, which for me is a little uncomfortable initially because I guess I'm a control freak of sorts. But at the same time, I put two different people in charge who both hit home runs. Daniel a year ago with the 1-year anniversary, and then Marcus this year for the 2-year anniversary. Going into it, Marcus didn't prep me at all. He basically said, hey, just show up. So he invited some surprise guests, which were amazing. He had a bunch of questions for me that I had not thought about ahead of time. A lot of those questions that he asked me are now reels on Instagram. So before I get deeper into some of the questions, I guess I'll do the plugs because it's the natural time now. So as a reminder, we are on Instagram at Everybody Has a Story Pod. The YouTube page for this show is at Everybody Has a Story Pod. If you want to email the show directly, you can email it at everybodyhasastorypod@gmail.com. For all things Jeff Seltzer, you can always check me out at jeffseltzer.com. Everybodyhasastorypod.com is up there as well. As a reminder, we're on all podcast platforms. We're video on Spotify and YouTube. We are audio on Spotify, YouTube, Apple, iHeartRadio, Amazon, Pandora. Pretty much anywhere you can find a podcast, you can find this show. As a reminder, if you want to be a future guest or if you want to interact with the show in any way, use the Instagram page, DM the show, or put a comment underneath one of the posts. And I'm pretty active in terms of engaging with listeners. So getting back to the episode from last week, once again, Marcus did a great job. I did get some flack, I guess, as somebody commented to Marcus and then sent to me that they don't think that a hamburger on a bagel is a sandwich. I'm not really sure what they're talking about or thinking about. I mean, a sandwich is literally something between two pieces of bread. Now, a bagel is bread. A hamburger is something. So I don't see how a hamburger on a bagel would not be a sandwich, but to each his own, right? I mean, last year on TikTok, I think somebody started coming at me about the fact that I got upset that washing machines and dryers always have the door on the wrong side and you got to pay like $50 to switch it. Like, I don't know. People are dumb sometimes. People are looking to troll online. It is what it is. So I try not to take it too seriously. Wanted to also add the fact that this past weekend, Spiderman Brand New Day came out into theaters. Amazing movie. Absolutely loved it. I'm not going to give spoilers, but I'll say there were so many different levels and factors of the movie that I really enjoyed. I enjoyed, obviously, the movement of the Spider-Man story from the last Spider-Man movie that came out through this one. I think it progressed the story well. I thought it did a great job of progressing the New Avengers storyline, as well as some other storylines that I'm not going to get into for spoiler reasons. It's a fun movie. Absolutely loved it. Probably going to see it again next week or so. Definitely recommend it. I think it was like the number 1 or number 2 movie of all time opening in the US. Definitely recommend it if you're a Marvel fan. If you're not a Marvel fan, it's still a very fun movie. Definitely go check it out. Also saw the new Minions and Monsters movie, mostly strategically because I want to take a nap. As I've said in the past, I can't nap at home. Like, I have trouble. I don't know if it's not dark enough or during the day or whatever it is. But when I go to the movies, if I'm in a certain mindset or if I've been up too early, that's the ideal place. I think the main reason is A, it's super dark. B, there's no engagement with anybody. And C, the fact that I am completely clean of technology. So, like, my phone's not in my hand. My watch I set to mute. My iPad's not there. I think it's the only place I can truly disconnect, which is probably why I have my best naps at the movie theater. So I slept for about 20 minutes during the movie. Outside of that, the movie was fine. You probably don't need to see Minions and Monsters unless you're a huge Minions fan, in which case I guess it is what it is. I'm sure it'll be on Peacock sometime soon. If you have an opinion on Spider-Man or the Minions movie, definitely come at me figuratively On Instagram, shoot me a DM or put some comments in the comment spot and talk about the movie, and let's see what happens. With that said, I did want to bring in my guest for this week, a friend of mine, colleague of mine, coworker, Scott Jeffries. Scott, how are you today?
I'm doing great.
Awesome. So first of all, thank you for joining the show. And
Yep.
we had talked earlier that you've listened to a few episodes, so always appreciate anybody who listens and anybody who has any interest in the show at all. And I know you initially came to me and messaged me and asked to be a guest, which I absolutely love. For me, I've spent a lot of time looking for guests. So when guests come and engage with me and like, hey, I want to be a guest, like that makes my job that much easier. So you've got a great story. You've got some great topics to talk about. So definitely really enjoying or looking forward to this conversation.
Well, great. Well, let me clear one thing up. I'm not an egomaniac. I didn't have to be on the podcast, but a lot of people I've talked to about what we're going to talk about today, they all say, you ought to be on Jeff's podcast. So that's what drove me to want to call you and maybe talk to you online.
Awesome. Appreciate that. And again, I didn't mean that you wanted to kind of come here and just talk about yourself, but you have an interesting topic that like I've had many topics on the show in these 75, 76 episodes that I have no clue about. So I've had many things like, for example, I talked to Lithia a couple of years ago about immigrating to the United States. I was born in New York. I lived in Jersey most of my life. So this is, obviously circumstances I have never lived through. A few weeks ago, I spoke with Natalie Dean, who talked about co-parenting after divorce. Fortunately, I've never truly experienced that. So obviously learning about it from her perspective, for me, was very eye-opening, and I absolutely love learning about it. Or even about a year ago, I had a friend of mine, Shira, on the show who lives in Canada. The whole episode was about living in Canada, which, again, I've never lived outside the United States. So for me, it was a great opportunity to learn about her situation, about what she's lived through, and about what living in Canada is like. So for me, I just love learning and giving a platform to others to kind of share their stories.
Awesome.
So with that said, Scott, if you can give us a little bit about who Scott Jeffries is and what you'd like to chat about today.
Okay. First of all, I'm a huge foodie and I'd like to put my vote in. If you can go into a burger place and order a burger on lettuce, it's definitely considered a burger. You can actually order it on a bagel and consider that a burger as well. So,
well, thank you.
But anyway, like you said, my name's Scott Jeffries. I was born in a little town in Missouri called Sedalia, Missouri. I never actually lived there, but I was born there. I'm an identical twin. And I thought about Ken's show that he did with you. That was a great show, by the way.
Yes.
And having his brother on with you was amazing.
Thank you.
But I've got a ton of stories that I could go into as well, but about that. But I'm an identical twin. Growing up, we moved around a lot, and went to my senior year of high school. We moved there the weekend before my senior year of high school to a whole nother state in Bowling Green, Kentucky. So went to high school there and went to college there. I have 2 grown kids now and 1 amazing granddaughter. And I have 2 Labradoodles, Ovi and Charlie, which they would be here if I'd open the door and let them in. I collect watches and fountain pens, just a fun hobby of mine. And it's funny because I write terribly, but I love fountain pens. So it's kind of a dichotomy there. I try to live by the motto, interesting people do interesting things. And I never wanted to be boring. So I always challenged myself through my life to try new and interesting things, hoping that it would rub off a little bit on me. And I try to live up to that motto. So that's kind of what got me interested in motorcycles.
Awesome. So yeah, we're going to talk motorcycles today. And again, that's a topic that I know very little about. And to be honest, it's just not something that's ever been in my life. I have some friends, my buddy Jay, who lives in Orlando, he rides a motorcycle. One of my old buddies in the area here rides bikes as well. But it's something that for me, I guess I'm very risk averse. And for me, it just feels like something that I'd be uncomfortable doing, let's say. But again, everybody has different comfort levels. And I'm sure there's pluses and minuses to riding motorcycles. So, but real quick, before getting into that, I did want to mention something I forgot to say earlier when I was talking about Spiderman. I know you were talking about like words that you live by. In the new Spider-Man movie, on Aunt May's tombstone, or on it has the quote, "When you help someone, you help everyone." And for me, that's a quote that kind of resonated with me. I know it was in the comic books years ago, but this was the first time that I truly focused on it when I saw it on the big screen. And it really are words that I live by. And the fact that I do feel that, like from the butterfly effect and paying it forward and karma, that when you go out of your way and you help somebody, the universe kind of works in different ways. And either that person you helped will then help other people, or other people will kind of see your example and do the same thing as well, whether it be personally or professionally or just in general in life. I think the better that we are towards other people it just makes society better overall.
Totally agree with you. I luckily when I was young, Zig Ziglar, if you know who he is, he came to our high school, and one of his main quotes is, "You can get everything out of life you want if you help enough other people get what they want out of life." And that was kind of his motto, and I've always remembered it to this day. And I try to live by that one as well. It's
Very
similar.
Cool. Nice. Cool. So to your point from earlier, so you ride motorcycles, you enjoy it. It's a hobby of yours, and that's what we first started talking about a few weeks ago when we were prepping for this conversation.
Yep.
So before getting into what you're doing now or how you've, I guess, rode recently or what you've done, can you kind of take me back years ago in terms of when you first, I guess, became interested or your first experience in seeing or just being aware of motorcycles?
Yeah. When I was in high school, my buddy had a dirt bike, and I'm sorry, Mom, if you hear this story, but he lived in a country road, and I wanted to try it. So I took off on this bike, and it started off being asphalt, and within about a mile, it went to really thick gravel. So I don't know. And I almost fell that day, and it scared me to death. So it took me 20 years after that time to want to get back on a bike. But my buddy that I went to church with was having a midlife crisis and wanted to start riding again. And he had his bike there, and he said, "Sit on it." So I sat on it, and he goes, "Just take it across the parking lot." And that one trip across the parking lot, I knew I was hooked, and I knew I had to do it.
Nice.
From that point on.
Nice. So you got your first experience there.
Yep.
So then I guess skip ahead a little bit. Like, when did you first decide for yourself, like, hey, I want to buy a bike, or like the rent or lease, or kind of like, what does that all look like?
Well, I've got a kind of a funny story. When I went to get my license, you have to do an obstacle course. And it was a week after the first time I sat on that bike, and my buddy was going to get his license, and he dared me to go try to get my license. And so I said, okay. So I went with him to try to get my license on this obstacle course. And you fail immediately if you stall the bike and put your foot down. So we show up at this place, and there was probably 10 people in line to get their license. And it just so happens that the instructor was this old, gruff guy, and was screaming at everyone and cussing, and he had a cigarette hanging out of his mouth. And we were all standing there scared to death of this guy. And this young kid came rolling across the parking lot on a sport bike, and he had a mirrored visor on. And the guy screamed at him, and he stopped and opened up his visor, and he got out of the guy's course and got in line. And when it got time for that guy to go on the course, he got up to the starting line, and the guy yelled at him, "What are you waiting on?" And he took off, and we never saw him again. So he didn't even try to take the class. Anyway, that was what I had to go through to pass the course. And I got all the way around it, and I rolled up to him, and he goes, "Well, I can't mark off for ugly, which is lucky for you." He goes, "You passed, but you have to promise me that you will go get lessons after this." And I already had them scheduled. So that was my introduction into motorcycles.
Nice. So, and again, this was years ago. I'll say it seems like driving testers, maybe it's changed over the years, were definitely next level years ago. So I never rode a motorcycle, never got a license. But what I'll say is when I got my driver's license for a car 30 plus years ago, so it was September or October of, I guess, 1994, because I'm 105 years old. I remember the instructor, or I guess the testing guy, gets in the car, and he goes, "Okay, let's go." He didn't put a seatbelt on. And I thought to myself, he was testing me. So I look and I go, excuse me, sir. I mean, I was 17 years old. "Could you please put your seatbelt on?" He goes, "I'm not putting my seatbelt on. Let's just go." And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, how many times can I ask him or push him before he just gets out of the car and fails me? So I asked him one more time, like, "Are you sure you're not testing me?" He goes, "I'm not wearing a seatbelt. Let's just go on this test." I'm like, okay. Which felt really weird in the fact that I was getting tested for my driver's license, and the guy who was testing me wasn't following the rules. But at the end of the day, I ended up passing the test. But it was a story that stuck with me 30 years later, because I'm like, that just doesn't feel like the right example to put out for the person that's 17 years old and probably super timid and really scared and nervous to start off. But I ended up passing it. So I guess life goes on, right?
Well, that's good. It's a good lesson for you. Was he testing you to see if you would tell him to put a seatbelt on? You think?
It's a great question. I mean, I don't know the answer. I'll probably never know the answer. But like, again, like as an adult, so I'm in my late 40s at this point. I always joke about this being my own personal midlife crisis. Like, I would never want to put like a kid. I mean, at 17, I was definitely a kid in that kind of a situation, right? Like, I would want to make sure that they're, at least in a safe situation, and that they're ready for the test, as ready as they can be. And not throw another variable out there like, hey, is this jerk in the passenger seat going to put a seatbelt on or not? And am I testing him? Like, that feels like a real not so good situation to put them in. But I mean, not everybody has that kind of mindset. So,
Right. Well, my twin brother, on our 16th birthday, you could get your full-fledged driver's license. So we went down to take our license, and I passed mine. And when he went to pass his, the instructor told him to turn left, going the wrong way in a one-way street. And Brian just turned the corner, and he instantly failed. So for a week, I got to drive him around. It was great.
Wow. And to be clear, what state was that? Because I know in New Jersey it's 17. I'm sure it varies across the country.
Oh, this was in Missouri.
In Missouri, it was 16.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Good to know. Okay, so you at this point you got your motorcycle's license, but you were told to take lessons, and you're like, okay, great, you had it scheduled already. So you take your lessons, and then at what point, how long after that do you? Because again, this was like a week after you touched a bike for the first time, so this is very, very expedited. It seems like.
Yeah.
At what point do you decide for yourself, like, hey, I'm going to buy a bike now, and this is kind of like what I'm interested in?
Well, I'd already bought the bike, but I didn't tell the instructor that. So I bought a used bike in case I didn't like it or whatever. And so for that first month or so, I do take it serious. And I do want to share that everything I'm going to tell you, my number one priority is to be a good ambassador for riding motorcycles to other people.
Of course.
So I don't want them to see me do anything stupid, and I always wear the appropriate gear and everything. So I do take it extremely serious. So for the first couple months, I rode in my neighborhood, and the circles kept getting wider and wider. And the first time I went on a real ride, which was about 4 miles away to a gas station, I dropped the bike at the gas station. So I got to thinking, man, I'm not sure this is for me. But I kept at it. And over time, as we'll talk about, my distances kept getting farther and farther.
Nice. But again, you bought a used bike, so I assume it probably wasn't too ridiculously pricey. And I mean, again, you're very inexperienced at that time, so that's to be expected, right? It's like when I first got my first bicycle 100 years ago, like it wasn't perfect initially, right? You fall a bunch of times, the thing falls. The key is you want to minimize the risk, minimize your injuries, and just be safe and be smart about it, right?
Yeah. Well, the learning curve is harder than almost anything I've ever done. Because the penalty of crashing is you get really hurt or worse. And so, and the first time you ride at night, the first time you ride when it's really cold, the first time you ride when it's raining or snowing, all those things you have to be able to do if you're going to ride like cross country or anything. And there's no book, there's books that you can read on how to do it, but until you're really out there doing it, learning it, experiencing it, that's the learning curve. They say that if you can make it through the first year without wrecking and you don't drive without drinking alcohol, then you're more than likely you're not going to have any problems riding. So it's getting through that first year is the hard part.
That's good. And before we go any further, also, outside of this one friend who kind of dared you to take the test, did any of your other friends or family have motorcycles or ride or anything, or was just the two of you at this point?
No, it was the two of me, but we also had a third friend that we went to church with, but he was, I'm trying to explain his job, but he was a sheriff. And in Colorado, the level of sheriff he had 4,500 people that reported into him. And so he was a big deal. And every time him and I would ride somewhere, everyone would say hi to him. And we actually got stopped once, and they apologized to us for stopping us because of him. I was with him. So, so I learned a lot from him, and I learned a lot from my buddy that talked me into riding. And that's a big key, is to get smart people that know how to ride that can help you as well, and not try to push you into doing stuff you shouldn't do.
Got it. And again, like I said before, like I'm ignorant to motorcycles as a whole. Like, what kind of bike do you start with? Like, I know there's lots of different styles, right? There's big ones, there's small ones, there's ones with sidecars. Like, is there like a model or a type or like?
No, that's just it. And a lot of a buddy of mine is a naval officer, and he was responsible for their program. And one of their problems is people go overseas and then come back with all this money and buy a really fast sport bike, and they crash it because they don't even know how to ride. Oof. And in Europe and places, there's a graduated scale that you have to start on a really small, like a 50cc bike, and work your way up to it. But in the US, whatever you can afford, you can go out and buy. But luckily, I started with a fairly small or cheap bike and quickly started working my way up the food chain. Because every bike you buy, you want something, you want cruise control on it, or you want heated seats. Or my bike I have now, it's got a reverse, which is really cool. And it's got a bunch of features that I think I need, but maybe you don't, but they're fun.
Did you say something at 50 cc's? Like, what does that mean? Is that like size? Is that speed?
That's the displacement of the engine. And so 50 cc's, I don't know what that equates to, but it means it's a really small engine. And like my bikes now are 1800 cc's,
Wow.
and which are huge. They're like a Honda Civic. It's the same engine that you can put in that car. You can put in my bike.
I was gonna say I don't know what a CC is, but going from 50 to
Cubic
1800
centimeters is what it stands for.
Gotcha. So that's helpful. But going from 50 to 1800, I mean, just from a fractional perspective and a percentage perspective, that feels like a huge difference, right?
It is. And it's the weight of the bike too. Because when I first started, my bikes were 200, 250 pounds. So if I dropped it, I could easily pick it up. And now it's 950 pounds, or fully loaded, it can be 1100 pounds. So if you drop a bike when they're that heavy, you probably need some help to pick it back up.
I was going to say, is there a risk that if it falls over that you can get stuck under? Like that's like dropping my car on me. It feels like, it's like, I don't think I'm coming back from that, right?
No, it happens a lot. I've stopped and helped people on the side of the road that fell, and I can help them pick it up and get them going, but got going again.
Got it. So the bike that you currently have, it's obviously larger than your 50 cc.
Right.
Like what kind of cargo or I guess, what can you put on it, right? So there's not like a traditional like car trunk, but there's like a box or something. Like what does that look like? If you're going to drive somewhere overnight or drive somewhere, I'd imagine you probably want to have stuff in it that you can use. Like how much can you actually carry on your bike?
I've had every bike imaginable. What I have now it's the top of the line from a standpoint of options. It's called a Honda Goldwing.
Okay.
And it's a touring bike, which means that you can ride it with two people on it, really comfortable. You can put 400 pounds worth of luggage and stuff on it. And so it's really big, and it's meant to handle as much as you want to put on it.
Got it. And from a technology perspective, just because I'm not really a car guy, but I love the tech in terms of like Apple CarPlay and music and such. Like what is included? Like does it have GPS? Does it just use your phone? Can you listen to music?
I've got Apple Play. I can plug my phone in and have Apple Play up on the screen. And it's got DCT, which is an electronic transmission, which is what they have in Formula One.
Okay.
So I don't have to shift gears, but I can use a paddle if I get in really fast corners and I want to downshift. I just use my thumb and downshift to the appropriate RPMs that I want to be at. So, and it's got like electric windshields and heated grips and heated seats, and it's truly got a reverse on it, which is handy if you're kind of short like I am. You can get stuck in parking lots that you don't realize the elevation on them, and you literally can't back out of it unless you have a reverse on your bike. So that's helped me a lot through the years.
Yeah, as another guy who's also vertically challenged, I get that. I'm only 5'8". I've been told that I'm above average in height if I were alive 200 years ago. However, in 2026, I'm a few inches south of the average. So it is what it is. I mean, my grandfather was 5'10", my dad's 5'9", and I'm 5'8". So I don't have any sons, but if I did, he'd probably be 5'7" or 5'6". So it's just kind of the way we're kind of de-evolutioning in my family, I guess.
Right. So anyway, so this bike, it's a cool, water cooled bike. A lot of the older, like the Harleys and different things, are air cooled, which means that you have to be moving and the air goes through and cools the engine down. But mine, I can run it all day long at 100 mile an hour which I've done through Death Valley in California. And I didn't overheat or anything. You could just keep riding.
Does it like is it something that's like inside the engine? Like you said, like water cooled?
It's a radiator. It's a radiator that comes on the bike. That allows it runs the coolant through the bike to keep it cool.
Got it. So from a technology perspective, it sounds like you're at the point now where it's almost like a car, but on two wheels in terms of
it truly is.
It's built into it, right?
It's embarrassingly so, Jeff. But I'm not ashamed at all. I'm happy to be on it, and it's really comfortable. I've got a backrest on it, and I mean to ride as many miles as I ride, you have to.
Yeah,
I've ridden probably over 400,000 miles on motorcycles in my life. So through the years, I've had to get more comfortable and more comfortable.
And I get that. I mean, my kids like camping. I don't like camping. I like nice hotels that I get like Marriott or Hilton points and Wi-Fi. Like I kind of see it as like the entry level bike versus like what you have is kind of like, do you like pitching a tent or do you like staying in a 5-star hotel? Like I'm more of the 5-star hotel type, but I mean, there's different styles, different strokes for different folks, I guess, right?
Correct. And I'm a Marriott guy myself, but I've been known to camp, but I'd much rather have a shower and working toilets and all and breakfast in the morning. So I'm more of you can put me on the Marriott side on the hotel side.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So at this point in life, how many years have you been riding for?
I've been riding for over 30.
Okay. So I'm not going to do the math. I'm not going to make people out there do the math. People can kind of figure it out for themselves back at the envelope or whatever. In our conversations, you had mentioned that even you alluded to earlier that not only do you do obviously short rides like around
Yeah.
your neighborhood and around the area, but you've taken a number of like longer tours, let's say.
Yeah.
You said you went out to California. Well, when you went to
Yeah.
California, I assume you rode your bike from here to California, or
Oh
did the
yeah.
bike get shipped out there?
Yeah. No, I ride everywhere.
Got it. How many miles do you realistically reasonably do like in a day?
Okay. Well,
Before you call it a night?
I'm in an organization, and this is what you're kind of alluding to. It's called
Yes.
It's called the Iron Butt Association,
Okay.
and it's a unique organization. And I have a license plate frame. It's kind of cheesy, but it says "World's Toughest Riders" around it, and you have to qualify to get one of these license plate frames. And that's what truly got me into it. I saw 3 guys at a motorcycle event once parked off by themselves, and all 3 of them had one of those plates. And I said, one of these days, I'm going to get one of those. But to qualify for the minimum level to qualify for one of those is you've got to ride 1,000 miles in 24 hours and document the trip. You've got to document every gas stop, where you go, and everything else. So that's truly called an iron butt ride, is a minimum. But they have different ones. Like the one I just did, this one was really hard. I did an iron butt ride, which was 1,000 miles in 24 hours, but I had to do it on the 4 seasons: the summer solstice, winter, spring, and fall. And it didn't matter what the weather was like. The winter one was, it averaged about 20 degrees, and it was dark the whole time, and it was brutal. But I had to do it to qualify for this, and you get a plaque and everything associated with it.
Nice. So you said it's called the Iron Butt. Is that correct?
Yeah, Iron Butt, IBA is what is the abbreviation, but it's the Iron Butt Association is what it's called.
And I assume that's alluding to the fact that sitting on a motorcycle for 1,000+ miles in a day can be very uncomfortable for your backside.
Correct. And you can look it up. That's what it's called. And that's what everyone knows it by. Even people that don't ride that far know what that organization is. And they usually call us crazy for doing it. But
sitting in a car for 400 miles and I'm feeling kind of achy, I can only imagine on a bike for more than 2 times. That's got to definitely wear at your body, huh?
The cool thing about it is when you're done, you're just mentally exhausted and physically exhausted, which I like that. It relaxes me, but you've got to think your way through the whole ride, and you've got to make sure you're getting the receipts at every gas stop and taking pictures and making sure that you really hit the 1,000 miles. Because if you're 5 miles short, it doesn't qualify.
So what is the acceptable documentation? And you said like gas station receipts, you have to take a picture, like you have to take a selfie with like the date and timestamp, or kind of
you have to do all that. But there's a website and a software package you can use that it literally tracks every minute. It tracks where you're at. So my wife can go online and see where I'm at on the ride, or I send it to the link to my friends and they can tell how fast I'm going and everything. But then you turn in that route when you're done, and that helps validate how far you've gone.
Nice. And you had mentioned something about the 4 seasons. Does that mean you have to do this 4 times in a year, once during each season?
Luckily, I think they make it, you don't have to do it all in one year. You just have to do all 4 seasons sometime in your lifetime, and you qualify for it. And I think probably they do it that way so they don't force you to ride when it's 4 inches of snow on the ground or whatever.
Which season? It sounds like you got all 4 of them. Which season was the toughest? I mean, I'd imagine fall and spring, if weather is good enough, are probably fine. It's probably either the winter is too cold or the summer is too hot. Like which season was kind of like the worst for you?
Summer was the easiest because it's daylight longer. The absolute worst one is winter, because you usually leave your house at like 3 a.m. and you're done by 11 that night or 12 that night. And literally it's 15 to 20 degrees and completely dark for the first 4 hours and the last 4 hours. It's not fun. I got to tell you, that one was not fun. And I did it with 2 buddies, and they were calling me every name in the book the whole day, but they were glad they did it when they were done.
And I'd imagine you're not doing this December 21st. Like you're probably doing this like in March, because that's still kind of winter, right?
No. You have to do it. December 21st, I think, is the winter solstice. You have to literally do it on the day.
So I got you. So there's 1 day a year that you can use to qualify for it.
Yes.
Understood. Got it.
Yeah, there's 1 day for the winter, 1 day spring. And the winter one is literally the shortest day of the year. Oof. So everything's working against you on that day. And depending on where you live in the country, different seasons are worse. Like in Florida, the summer one would be the worst, in my opinion, because it's just so hot.
So hot. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'd imagine, and again, like I'll say this, like my vision's not good. I wear contacts, and as I've gotten older, I need more and more reading glasses. I'd imagine it's probably it gets tougher and tougher with the less light and trying to see things
It
like
does.
at this age, right?
And look for stuff on the road, like you hit tires or you hit
Right.
deer or whatever the case may be. And yeah, you got to be real careful.
Yep. You had mentioned earlier about that you do have a wife, that you're married.
Yes.
Does your wife ride with you at all, or do you generally ride solo, or kind of
Yeah.
like what's her perspective on this?
Well, I mean, it's risky enough. I would never want to try to talk somebody else into it. And
Of course.
I'm blessed that she lets me ride as much as I want, but she's ridden with me a couple times, but it's not her gig. And she's always said, well, buy me a convertible and I'll follow you with all the luggage and you can ride wherever you want to. So I have this big bike that's real comfortable, but I usually ride one up.
Makes sense. I mean, I would imagine it's similar to like I go to some events or movies by myself. It's kind of me time. Like, you
Yeah.
know, I look at it as like for me in my life, I need us time, family time, and me time.
Yeah.
It sounds like from a motorcycle perspective, you get a lot of me time, but you also get a lot of like buddy time as well,
Yeah.
whether you're riding by yourself or with your friends. And then obviously, you know, hang out with your wife and your family when you're back home. But there's like just different variables or different aspects of your life, right?
Correct. And there'll be times where work's been really stressful or whatever. And my wife will say, Scott, you need to go for a ride. Because
Yeah.
she says I always come back happier and a lot more relaxed. So it's almost gotten to the point where it's not something I do, it's something I have to do.
Yeah. That's
And
amazing. Yeah.
yeah.
I think you had mentioned in our previous conversations that recently you took a bit of a longer ride. So you live in what, Maryland? Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you took one up to what was like a round trip to New England for the day or something? Is that correct?
Watkins Glen, New York.
Yes. Tell me about this.
I'm in a riding group and we're going to do a formal ride in about 6 weeks. And the guy that's leading the ride didn't know the way. So I said, it's Saturday, let's go up there. And it was 612 miles round trip for me to do that. But we went up, we left early, went up and had lunch in Watkins Glen and found a hotel for everyone to stay at and everything. And then rode back that night. And I've also done trips this year. I went up the same general area, but we went to, where the Olympics, Lake Placid, New York, which is a beautiful area there. And that was about 680 miles round trip. We did that. And I did that as an overnight. So,
Okay.
So trips like that, I do a lot of 800-mile days or 700-mile days. If it's not at least 500, I feel cheated in a day.
For days like that, do you have to prep or stretch ahead of time, or kind of like even like mentally get yourself like ready, or you just kind of wake up and say, this is what we're doing today?
As I've advanced in years a little bit, I always carry Advil,
Smart.
and I take that preventatively, and I need it towards the end of the ride, so that helps me quite a bit. And you got to make sure that you keep enough liquids in you as the two primary things.
Right.
And we stop a lot. You stop every 150 miles or so to get fuel and stretch and everything.
Got it. So to the fuel point then, like how much fuel does your bike carry, and
Yeah.
how many miles per gallon do you get? Because I assume it's just gas, right? It's not a hybrid
Yeah.
of any kind.
It's funny. I was filling up last week and a guy behind me goes, "Hey buddy, how many miles a gallon do you get?" And I said, "Well, I ride really fast, but I still get 44 to 46 miles per gallon, which is nice.
Nice.
But the tank only holds 5.2 gallons, I think it is on this bike.
Yeah.
So, but it's still, you get a range of 225 miles, which is plenty. You're wanting to stop by the time you've hit that limit anyway.
Right. So on a 600-mile trip, or even as you said earlier, a 1,000-mile trip, you're stopping multiple times just for gas alone, because you're only
Correct.
carrying, 2 to 250 miles per tank, right?
Yeah, you bring up a good point. On the official Ironbutt rides, you have to stop every, I think it's 300 miles, or else you don't qualify.
Really?
Because people get auxiliary gas tanks and they mount them to their bike, so they can ride 500 miles if they chose to. But that's cheating. They want to keep it safe, and they want people to go the speed limit for the most part. And,
Of course.
And so so I get really good gas mileage, and it doesn't cost all that much, and it's just a good hobby from that standpoint.
And is it regular fuel? Is it diesel fuel? Like, what is that you put in there?
It depends which bike you have. Like a lot of the Harleys and the Indians, which I've had in the past, you have to use premium fuel on those bikes. But my bike, believe it or not, is it's like a car, but it uses regular gasoline, which it saves me probably $1 every time versus them every time we stop.
Right. Makes total sense.
Yeah.
So you've done lots of different treks, short treks, long treks, whatever. What's your favorite route? Like if you think back to fantasize, like, hey, my favorite route I've ever taken, or the most scenic or most enjoyable, like what have you enjoyed the most?
There's a legendary ride called the Back of the Dragon. It's down in North Carolina and goes into Tennessee. That's one of my favorites because everyone in the world knows where that road is. It's like 313 corners and 12 miles. And it's just really windy and it's just a great ride. So that's one of my favorites. And I've been to I flew into San Diego and rode with my buddy that was a captain in the Navy, and I rented a bike from him, and we went from San Diego through Death Valley, and we went to Las Vegas, and we were on the Strip at midnight. It was so cool. It was 118 degrees, but you could hear the bike reverberate off of the buildings and everything as we went through the Strip. That was a cool ride. I've done so many fun rides. I've been really blessed and I lived in Colorado that's where I learned to ride. And so up in the mountains there all the time, whether it's Winter Park or Vail and Aspen, and Aspen's probably the most beautiful place I've ever ridden.
Very cool. Very cool. So as a longtime wrestling fan myself, when I was in high school and college, WCW World Championship Wrestling used to have an annual wrestling pay-per-view in Sturgis. So it was alongside the annual motorcycle rally out in Sturgis. They'd have an event, whatever else like that. Have you ever been, or what's your knowledge or experience of the Sturgis rallies that I believe, or I assume still happen annually?
Yeah, they happen annually. I've been there 3 times, and I've cheated the last couple times. My cousins have this beautiful camper, and I go up and stay with them and live in this camper for the week. But the riding up there's amazing. All the different land monuments and everything, and it's beautiful riding, and just getting to sit at Sturgis and watch all the bikes go up and down the road and everything. And that's the closest I've ever came to getting in trouble. The first year I went, I was on my Honda, and they're not impressed by Hondas up there. That's Harley Davidson country. Of course. And my buddy had a Harley, but he was a Marine, and he asked me to hold his coat because he was going to the restroom, and his coat had a Marine insignia on the back, Semper Fi on it. And these guys walked up to me and they go, "What are you doing with that coat?" And I knew where they were coming. I said, dude, I'm holding it for my buddy. He'll be right back. And they were about to cause a scene and take this coat from me. Yeah. And my buddy walked up and he goes, do you boys have a problem? And so he diffused the situation pretty quick, but that could have been an issue.
I was going to say, these are dudes that you probably do not want to mess with on any level. No, so it's good that it's able to be diffused as quickly and easily as it was.
Well, and honestly, I'm ornery enough. I didn't tell them that it wasn't my jacket. And my buddy goes, you think you could have told them that it was not your jacket? I said, no, I knew you were coming back. Right. So, but yeah, no, those are not people that you want to mess with out there.
Probably not. What's on your motorcycle bucket list at this point? So looking forward, is there like a bike that you'd love to get? Is there a route you'd like to ride? Are there other countries you want to ride in? Kind of like what's your motorcycle bucket list at this point?
Well, my wife has already penciled me in for this one. I want to ride to Alaska and ride as far as you can. And it would literally take me 3.5, 4 weeks to do it, to ride out there and back. And just the scenery, you have to ride up through Canada and then get back on the Dalton Highway. And it's an amazing ride. But I mean, there's a fair degree of risk because you could hit a moose or the mud and everything else that you have to ride through. But that's probably the only ride I haven't done that I really want to do, is to ride to Alaska.
Is that something that you're realistically trying to plan or will plan? Or is that one of those things where you look at and you're like, it'd be great if I did it, but you probably won't?
No, I'll do it. I'll have to buy another bike because some people do it on a Goldwing, but I want to get a dual sport bike is what they're called, where you can ride on road or off road and it's illegal for the highway. Nice. So that if I hit dirt roads or whatever, it'll be more conducive to riding on that bike. Plus it's a good excuse to buy another bike.
Absolutely. How many bikes do you currently own? Like, as you got this bike, do you get rid of your old bikes, or do you have like a garage full of them, or kind of like, what does your collection look like?
Well, you're catching me right now. I've only got the one, but I normally have 2 or 3 at any given time. Yeah. But right now I've just got the one, but I'm looking for another Indian to buy, because I was president of one of the larger riding groups in the country out of Hagerstown, Maryland, and I helped start it. The dealership came to me and said, "Scott, we'd like you to be president of this riding group." And so the very first day, there's a whole group of people there, and my speech was, "If anybody else wants this job, please step up." And nobody did. So I was president for 8 years. But I sold that bike when I got out of being president last year. But now I miss having an Indian, so I'll probably have another one soon.
Nice. One last question for you.
Yeah.
So years ago, when I worked somewhere else, There was a guy that I knew of named Adam Adams. My name is Jeff. Your last name is Jeffries. When
Yeah.
you had kids, did it ever hit you that maybe you should call your kid Jeffries, or was that not even like in the realm of ideas for names?
Well, being an identical twin, I got called my brother's name more often than I got called my own name. So I was always conscious about, and I get called Jeff a lot too, because Jeffries.
Right.
So no, it never dawned on me to do that to a poor kid.
It's a crazy one. I mean,
Yeah.
to your point, I guessed the show from a few weeks ago, Roger Lee. His work email is like Lee Roger. So I can't tell you how many people have asked me, like, is his name Lee Roger or Roger Lee? I mean, it's a
Exactly.
valid question because the way that emails kind of show up.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he's probably spent his whole life dealing with that as well.
Yep.
I'm Jeff Seltzer. What I'll say is this: the only name that I've always thought was interesting was years ago. I worked with someone whose it was a lady. Her first name was Alka, and so I once thought to myself, like jokingly, like, how ridiculous would it have been if me and her got married and her name became Alka Seltzer? Like that's just something that would be kind of out there, I guess. Maybe she would hyphenate or not even take the last name.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was more one of those just like wild brainstorms or whatever, but names are weird, right?
They are. It says a lot about you that you would even go there mentally.
I mean, my brain goes in a lot of weird places. We probably don't want to dig into that one too much today. It's probably a whole other podcast altogether.
There you go.
Anything else you'd like to talk about motorcycle wise about your life or share before we work towards conclusion here?
I guess just, I mean this, and my buddies will tell you this. I can ride pretty quick, but when I led group rides, when I was a president, I always told the group before we left, I'm going to be the slowest guy on this ride because I never wanted anybody to have to try to speed up to keep up with our group or anything. And it was always important to me that I projected an image of safety and an image of you can do this wearing the helmet, wearing all the gear and everything, dress appropriately. So that's the image that I want to leave with people. That's what I always try to do.
Awesome. Any social media or anything you want to plug or promote before we call it?
No, really not. I wish there was, but no, there's not.
Got it. So with that said, before we do call it a day, and as I mentioned earlier, Scott and I do currently work together. I alluded on last week's episode that I had a little bit of an evolution happening in life. So just to kind of be a little more transparent and a little less, a little more behind the scenes, I guess, here. So I've been working for the same company now for almost 10 years, the one that Scott and I work for currently. By the time this episode drops, my time at that company will have ended, and I'm about to move on to my next role at another job. It's a very weird situation after being with the company for almost a decade. That's like 20% of my life, right? Like at this point, my daughters, I think, were 6 and 8 when I started there, and now one of them's about to start college. So for me, it's just crazy. It was like more than half a lifetime for both of them that I've spent with this organization. It's been great. I've learned a lot. I've met a lot of great people. Obviously, there's ups and downs in any job that you're at. But for me, would I've changed much of it? Not really. I mean, it got me to where I am today, which is going to get me to where I'm going to go tomorrow. So really excited about that. So for anybody who's listening from that company, I just want to say thank you for everything. Thank you for the experiences, for the learnings, the opportunities, and all that kind of stuff. Corporate America is a weird place, and it's a very small industry as well. So I'm sure many people that I currently work with or recently work with, I'll probably see again at some time or some facet in the future. So if you are listening, just want to say thank you. Appreciate everything. And obviously, you all know you've got my number probably. Reach out or hit me on LinkedIn if you want to chat about something, whatever. I'm here to help. With that said, thank you everyone for your time. As always, thank you for listening. Thank you for joining me on my personal midlife crisis. Probably off for a couple of weeks right now, but we'll be back in September at some point. Some pretty cool stories coming up that I'm sure I'll be sharing at that point. Have a great week. Have a great day. And I'll talk to everybody soon. Thank you, everybody.
Everybody has a story with Jeff Seltzer. Everybody has a story with Jeff Seltzer. Everybody has a story with Jeff Seltzer. Everybody has a story with Jeff Seltzer.